Welcome to Crotoni Entertainment. I'm Chris, and I'm here without Bree again. She actually may show up partway through the video. She's out doing a show right now, and I know she's on her way home. So it's entirely possible she's going to open the door, and the dogs are going to go nuts. And she's going to be like, I'm home! And I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm making a video. And she's going to be like, oh no, what are you going to do? And I'm just not going to edit it out, because that's not what I do. Anyway... we're going to do another one-page rules video tonight. We're going to step back into the realm of Power Rangers with it. Here's the grid figures, most notably. Been thinking about this a lot lately. There's really the founding... I'm throwing stuff. Really, the founding idea behind this channel started with Renegade Games' Heroes of the Grid, obviously. But there's just not enough new stuff I can continue to offer you guys just making videos about painting those figures to really continue to grow or honestly even maintain as a channel. There's also not a lot of channels out there that are dedicated in any way to the OnePageRules gaming system, which I think is an absolute shame. There's a number of videos, a number of channels that do OnePageRules videos, but they're mostly Warhammer themed channels. Maybe there's not enough room to grow in OnePageRules, but I've seen since day one this massive opportunity to mix wargaming with the absolutely wonderful figures from the Heroes of the Grid game universe. At this point, there's so many expansions, it could practically be its own game universe. So, I think we're going to end up doing, we'll still have the occasional painting video, but I think we're going to start seeing more OnePageRules videos. There's going to be a lot going on with me talking about the virtues of OnePageRules to veteran gamers and to beginner gamers alike. I mean, even if you came here just because you paint Power Rangers figures or because you're painting your Hero Quest figures, all of those are usable in the OnePageRules game system. And honestly, I really genuinely believe that anybody who has figures owes it to themselves to try this game if you haven't already tried it. And I know I've been working on my Age of the Grid modifications and my Age of the Grid rule set. I'm hitting some walls with that here and there, but OnePageRules is right there for us to be using and playing with these figs. And when I say you owe it to yourself to try these things, I used this analogy with Bree the other night. If you play video games of any kind and compare them to war games, because I've heard that comparison a lot when you talk about the pricing of a full army in certain war games, usually it's talking about a full army made entirely of Games Workshop figures, which is a substantial cost. And the analogy that gets thrown out is it's not that much more expensive than having a game system hobby, except your army can be used a lot more than that video game that you bought. And I think that analogy falls a little flat because it's comparing the game with the hardware, with the PS5 or the Xbox Series, whatever we're at right now. I don't play either of the most recent systems. I think they've hit the price point where I'm like, I don't see the benefit. I think I only own like 10 games for my PS4. I like a lot of older games. We're doing a lot of that. We'll talk about those later in different videos. But anybody who sees the game as the hardware and the army as the software or as the game, I think is missing the point. I think your army, or in the case of Hero Quest players or Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid players, you have the hardware. The hardware is the figs. Different games that you can plug these figures into is the software. Playing Heroes of the Grid is fantastic, but when you buy a Nintendo, you're not only playing Mario games your entire life. Maybe you are. But if you can get your hands on some other games, why would you not give them a try? And it's the same thing here. If you've got these Power Rangers figures, I really encourage you to go to OnePageRules.com, download the basic rules. I think it's divided as core, basic, and full. The core rules are one page, double-sided. You're playing. You can play with that. The basic rules is a little bit longer. I think it's a 10 or 12 page rule book. It's really the same content as the one page, but just explained a little more in depth. And then you can get into the Patreon if you want to and get the full length rule book. And some people will be disingenuous and tell you that the full length rule book, there actually is a paywall to play the game. There's not. The full rule book just adds to it. The game is 100% complete as is. So check out OnePageRules. Check out the core rules. Try the game. here's how you can try it really easy. I am on the Army Forge, which if you've watched some of our other list building videos, you have seen this website before. This is the most recent version of Army Forge. This is where all the core games of OnePageRules have the ability to build them into an army. And rather than sit here and heavily modify models like I've shown you so many times with Age of the Grid, we're going to take a step backwards. We're going to demake our Age of the Grid project a little bit and say, you know what, you don't even need that. You don't need what I've used their system to put into existence. You can do it right from their core stuff. So basically you look here and you say, where are we going to start? Well, we're not going to start with Warfleet's FTL. That's about spaceships flying around going pew-pew. That's not going to fit your Power Rangers figs. Age of Fantasy Regiments, that's not going to fit your needs either. You're talking about full armies there. Age of Fantasy, Grimdark Future, those are both army-sized games. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about individual models. We're talking about heroes and whatnot. So that leaves us Grimdark Future Firefight and Age of Fantasy Skirmish. I have looked through armies on both of these systems, and the systems themselves are interchangeable. You theoretically could take a Grimdark Future force and have it fight an Age of Fantasy army. But looking through the different lists, I think Age of Fantasy Skirmish is going to be more appropriate for your Heroes of the Grid figures than Grimdark Future. And that comes from a couple of notions. The big argument for looking at Grimdark Future first was, hey, all Rangers tend to have pistols. You're going to see more guns in Firefight, and you're absolutely right about that. But a lot of cases in Firefight, as a result of every model having a gun, a lot of them have unrealistic pistol-sized guns. They have rifles, which translates into Wargaming usually at about a 24-inch range. If you don't play war games, your table, and hopefully you will start trying OnePageRules, your typical table is going to be 48 inches across, and that's half the battlefield in a straight line that you could potentially shoot, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense for pistols. So the other problem is, with all the guns that are in Grimdark Future Firefight, there's not a lot of melee weapons. Or not a lot of variety in the melee weapons, I should say. And there is a lot of variety in Power Rangers based... Oh, what, Emmett? There's a lot of variety in Power Rangers based power weapons. So we're going to go with Age of Fantasy Skirmish, and we're going to talk about just one Ranger team right now. There's a lot you can do with this. You can do whatever team you want. We're going to be the basic bitch of Power Rangers, and we're going to start with Mighty Morphin. Cue the people who complain that Mighty Morphin gets all the attention. You know what, maybe I'm the basic bitch. The Mighty Morphin team is and always shall be my favorite team, and it's also the most accessible for talking about these things at a high level. If this video does well and there's some engagement on it, we will go ahead and pull this back up and do this for other teams as well. But we're definitely going to keep doing more OnePageRules videos, because I really think if you're not already playing it, you should absolutely try it. You literally have nothing to lose, and you have so much to gain. So when we open up our skirmish here, we've got all our official books, and there's community books now. We're going to ignore the community books for now. These are army lists that people have written for themselves. I will have some up in time for actual armies and some Power Rangers based stuff, but we're not worried about that today. What we want to pick out today is something that would match up with our Power Rangers. And to save a little bit of time in the video, I can tell you I've gone through all of this here, and probably the most appropriate one for a team of Rangers themselves are the Eternal Wardens. You're going to have a lot of models with tough, which means they're not just going to be taken off the table in one hit. They're going to be fearless, which means they're not going to run away very easily. But their stats are not going to be so ridiculously good that there's no point in playing against them. And the reality is, you can play Power Rangers versus Power Rangers. You can play bad guys versus Power Rangers. You can play bad guys versus bad guys. And if you're using the official books, the official rules, you could play Power Rangers versus anybody. That's one of the other reasons we pick Eternal Wardens, is they're based off of models that typically have about 40mm bases, and your Heroes of the Grid are sitting right about there with their bases. So these will also fit scale-wise, and theoretically you could play your Age of Fantasy Skirmish Power Ranger team against a team of dwarves, or a team of ghosts, or whatever you wanted to play it against. So we're going to open up the Eternal Wardens here. And I've shown you this before. It's going to show us, all the special rules. It's going to show us the whole list here. But we want to create our own list. So we're going to click Create List. And we're going to call the list name, we'll call it Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, if I could learn how to type. So we got a couple different list limits here. We got 300 points, 250, and custom. I'm not super worried about this right now. This is one of those things that if you do give this a go, you can talk with whoever you're playing against, and you can say, what do we want to play at? And this doesn't even have to truly be based off of points. You could say, look, I really want to play a 6-model Power Rangers team, you know, the 5 core plus a special ranger. Or you can even go further and say, I want to mix and match from multiple ranger teams. None of that's out of the question. But that might be easier than just limiting to a point. So we're going to say 300 points for now. We're going to see where this lands us. We're going to see how reasonable it is. And we'll click competitive validation. We don't care too much about that, but we'll click it, whatever. So we create the list. If you've seen our other video, this will look somewhat familiar. You got this first column that shows you the actual army book. This second column shows what we've taken so far, and then this third column here kind of blows everything up and makes it huge. So we've got 6 rangers to kind of figure out presently. And obviously that's going to be the core 6 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We're going to leave out the Stone Canyon Rangers for now. We're going to leave out White Ranger for now. We're going to leave out Bulk and Skull for now. We're going to leave all those out just for this exact moment. They can be added to this later. We just kind of want to do the core 5. So if we kind of started at the beginning here, in order of morphing sequence, we've got Dragon Zord first. Hero is not a rule that matters that much in Grimdark Future Fantasy, Age of Fantasy Skirmish, but you see the hero rule here pops up. Friendly units within 12 inches may use this quality for morale checks. These guys are all going to be fearless anyway, so they're going to get +1 to the morale checks. It's not, whoop, I'm throwing stuff. It's not really going to come into play that much, but a lot of people would argue that, you know, Tommy, our Green Ranger, he needs to be a hero level guy. I don't know if I necessarily agree. You all know I've never been the biggest Green Ranger fan, but, you know, we'll stick with that. So we've got 2 hero options. We've got the Warden Knight, and we've got the Guardian Elite. My concern with the Warden Knight is this right here, this 80-point price tag. We open this up, and we've got all sorts of options here. But this is an extremely expensive model. So we're going to leave this guy out entirely for right now. And if it turns out we're way under points, we can revisit. And Tough 6 is kind of an insanely high tough stat for Skirmish. But we also have the Guardian Elite here. So we look at the Guardian Elite, and we've got Quality of 4, Defense of 4. Okay, that's workable. We've got Fearless, that's +1 to morale checks. Got Tough 3, which means we got to take 3 damage before we start taking a roll to see if we go down. And we've got a hand weapon for 3 attacks at AP1. AP1, of course, being armor piercing. It means you're going to make an opponent's defense rolls worse. If they roll a 3, it's really going to be a 4. If they roll a 4, it's really going to be a 5. And so on and so forth. Or actually, it's kind of going to be the reverse. If they roll a 4, it's actually going to be a 3 because you subtract 1 from it. And if their save is a 4+ and they roll a 4, it's now a 3. 3 is lower than 4. They take a damage. Yada yada yada. So we've got some weapon options here. I don't think any of these really matches that well with. Doesn't really match that well with our Dragon Dagger. So we may go ahead, and if we decide to keep the Guardian Elite as Tommy, we're going to just leave him as is. 45 points. He's got a decent stat line. We're going to add him to the list. So there he is. He's on the list. We can duplicate him. I think there's a way to change his name. How do you do that again? There we go. We can click over here, and we can change his name. We can call him Tommy. We can call him Dragon Ranger. We can call him Green Machine. I mean, whatever you want to call him. So we'll just call him. We'll just call him Tommy. Everybody knows that name. Look, Tommy, look at that. It says Tommy over here, and he's a Guardian Elite. So if your opponent says, oh, what's he supposed to be? Boom, right there. There's no questions. So same situation. Now we need to figure out Mastodon. And we could go hero again, and we could just build them all off this hero stat, but kind of where's the fun in that? So we kind of scroll down a little bit, and I'm not going to go through every option here, kind of explore these and see if you disagree with what I'm saying, but for the sake of not making the video last 10,000 years, I think it was either under Praetorian or Eternal. You go over to, here we go, Eternal is perfect. It's a little bit pricey. We need to be worried about that. But we go over to Eternal, and look what we got here. He comes with a Great Glaive, but it can be swapped out for a Great Axe. How perfect is that right off the bat? So we're going to add that. We're going to change its name and call it Zach. We're going to switch it to the Great Axe, and we're going to see what happens as we go. Now we've got Pterodactyl is going to come up next. So I know that we've got a couple of different options here. We've got the Warden Marksman, which is a shooter, because we know we want a power bow as an option. And then we've got the Guardian here, the Guardian Archer. I'm going to by default knock out the Guardian Archer. The price point on the Guardian Archer is fantastic, but it does not have a tough score. So you'd be putting, a Kimberly on the table who only has 1 life and she gets knocked out easily. So we're not going to do that. We're going to walk away from that. We are going to go, however, to this Warden Marksman, and we've got some options here. So we've got the Warden Marksman as an option, and then not the Warden Hunter. Is that it? Just the Warden Marksman? Yeah, this is the one. So we got the Warden Marksman, and this one here, quality 4, defense 4, fearless, tough 3. Okay, that's pretty good. We've got our basic hand weapon for 2 attacks. We've got a Cyclone crossbow. It's 18 inches, 3 attacks, AP1 with rending. You've also got a precision crossbow, which is 24 inches, 2 attacks, AP1, rending, and sniper. So rending is you're going to roll a 6 to your quality score when you roll a hit. And, well, here, I'll just pull it up here. Unmodified result of 6, count as being AP4 and ignore regeneration. So if you roll a 6, it's going to be almost a guaranteed piece of damage. Not necessarily, though. And then you've got replace the Cyclone crossbow with the following, the precision crossbow. So we're actually going to go ahead and add this to the list here. And we're going to change the name. We're going to change her to Kimberly. And we're going to add the precision crossbow. And we're going to do that because we're thinking down the road. We're thinking of Cat down the road. And Cat is probably going to have the other bow. So that way there's a difference between the two of them as they're going. However, we do have a concern here. If you look at our points value, we're already at 200 out of 300. And we have 3 Rangers left to add to this. So this is going to lead us to some decisions down the road. Those decisions are going to be, do we insist on trying to play a bigger game? Or do we go back and see what we can do about cramming in 6 Rangers? Or do we say, we don't need to play 6 Rangers all the time. We could just play 4 Rangers and have a good game going on. Although, look how expensive Kimberly has gotten with that. It's 90 points. That's just bananas. We also may go back and we could turn this into the regular thing. Because the other reason we're looking at the precision crossbow is while it's only 2 attacks, it is sniper. So she actually gets a quality 2+ when she shoots, which is just fantastic. I mean, it's really good. So while the 3 attacks, you're probably going to get 1 to 2 hits, whereas this is only 2 attacks, but they're almost definitely both hitting with the precision crossbow. So something to keep in mind. You can make changes to it as you see fit, but that's our Pterodactyl. Now we've got a Triceratops. We got a couple of options for our Triceratops. We've got the Praetorian, who comes with Fearless Head Taker. So when fighting something with tough 3 or higher, this actually gets +2 to the AP value. So it's a 0 AP weapon, so it's just regular saves. It can be an AP2, and it's also rending. I actually really like this option for Billy, straight up, because it feels very strategic. It feels very smart. It feels like potentially somebody who's planning, which is absolutely going to fit the bill for what we want to have with Billy. So we're going to go ahead and add the Praetorian to the list. We're going to go ahead and change the name here to Billy. We're not worried about points still. Don't worry about points. Let's just build our list. So we've got our Triceratops. Now we go into Saber-Tooth Tiger. So we're going to need Trini here. So Trini is a fun one because Trini should have multiple weapons. So I'm thinking lots of attacks for Trini will kind of be right in line with what we want. So we look at the Eternal, and we don't really have anything that's got lots of attacks. We look at the Praetorian, same story. The Warden Hunter. 2 attacks. We got a bolt pistol. That could potentially be our Blade Blaster, but it's not really fitting in with the rest of it. Destroyer is a little over the top for what Trini is. However, oh no, do they not have it in the list? Guys, I may have just walked into something without even realizing it here. Oh, there we go. Winged Warden, that's what I was thinking of. I was also thinking this one for later conversation, but we'll pull that up. So you go over here, and we've got the Wardens, which you could take these guys. They can go to dual hand weapons. She'd go up to 4 attacks. It'd be 50 points. That's a good option. Or we've got the Winged Wardens that we could go ahead and give her dual hand weapons. She'd be 60 points. but she'd have the ability to fly, and she'd be furious. She'd get an extra attack when she charges. For sake of points, it may be better to go ahead and go with the Warden, with just the dual hand weapons. But this one, the flying and furious would be kind of cool, represent her kind of being real acrobatic and jumping over stuff. But again, for just the sake of we're getting expensive here, we're going to go ahead and just take the regular Warden. 4 attacks is still absolutely nothing to sneeze at. She's going to have more attacks than anybody here. And we'll put Trini in. And now, last but not least, we're at 300 points. We are right here with a 5-person team. We are at 300 points. Theoretically, we are done. Our big problem here, and the big problem for me, is that we don't have even points values in everybody. Now, I don't know if we were ever going to truly have even points values with everybody, but it would have been nice if we could have kept them pretty close to even, because keeping them pretty close to even would have put us in a situation where they're more interchangeable for other games. But we'll talk about that a little more in a minute. So we go back over to Jason. We already said Warden Knight is out of the question. It's too expensive. But Guardian Elite is not necessarily out of the question. So Guardian Elite would be just like Tommy, be another Guardian Elite. And Jason's hand weapon, we probably want to make it a great weapon, because his power sword has defeated more villains than anybody else one-on-one. And so we're going to go ahead and tag this, and we're going to say Jason. And boom. So we're at 345 points. That's because we didn't give him the great weapon yet. We're at exactly 350 points. Now, this is a good round number to play a game at. It's always good if you can get your points in intervals of 50, just for the sake of making a game easy to play. And the way this has kind of shaken out is you could easily take Tommy and dump him and go down to almost 300. Don't take that the wrong way when I say dump him. We could also make some modifications to this. We may go ahead and do that. We may turn around and... Oh, we've broken a validation rule. What have we broken here? Oh, points limit exceeded. We're not worried. We said we're not worried about points. Nobody cares about that. So the other option, of course, is to find something else to do with Kimberly, because she is our point sink right here. If we turn her back into that, we're down to 320. If we shaved off another 20 points somewhere, we would have a team built up of Rangers that you fit them into 300 points. It's really easy, really round, really simple to find opponents for. We didn't actually give Trini her 2 hand weapons, so now we actually have to drop 30 points. So let's see where we can find some points to potentially shave off. We'll go over to Zach here, and Zach's a little expensive at 65 points. So is there anything we can do to replicate Zach and not spend that many points? Well, we probably could. We can probably go down to the Warden here, and there we go. We could take a Warden with a great weapon, and he'd be 55 points. Problem with that is that he is identical to Jason with those values, so that's not necessarily the best choice. We want things that feel different. We've got a Paladin, and actually this might be a good change to make to Tommy. Now, I was looking at this one earlier, so it looks worse than Tommy, because Tommy's quality 4, defense 4. He's got 3 attacks, AP 1. He would lose that hero status, but he would gain, and he loses AP, but he would gain Empower. So you look at Empower. When in melee, roll a die and apply a bonus. On a 1 to 3, his 3 attacks would get Rending. On a 46, his 3 attacks would get AP 1. So you'd get something different out of him for the same points value. So we're actually going to dump Tommy here, and we're going to put in a Paladin. And now we've currently got every single Ranger on this list is being represented by a different model, which is awesome. We're still a little high on these points here, and our culprits still seem to be Kimberly at 60, Trini or Billy at 60, and Zach at 65. So these are kind of our problems right now. So as we scroll down again, we can go to the Winged Wardens again. We got a great weapon we could give Zach here. That would make him feel a little different. He's got the flying. It's a little bit of a stretch, but that could be our hip-hop keto. May move through all obstacles and ignore terrain. Needs to only roll 2+ for successful drop or leap, and may freely jump without having to roll for it. He would also have Furious, so when he charges, he would go ahead and get... what's the word I'm looking for, guys? He would go ahead and get +1 attack. It would also put his points values very in line with what we're dealing with. So we're going to go ahead and add that to the list. Go to our Winged Warden here. We're going to rename it. So we'll rename this new Zach, basically. And we'll dump this Zach for the moment. So now we're at 315. Let's see if we can shave a couple more to get us where we need to be. Oh, sorry, we are not at 315. We are at 320. We need to shave 10 more to get where we need to be. So right now we're pretty even. So Jason's right in at 50. Trini's right in at 50. Tommy's at 45. Zach's at 55. Combined, that's 100. Our problem is here. And Kimberly's going to be the hardest one to fix. I'm going to tell you that right now. Because finding another bow person, we can go Guardian Elite, give her a bow. She's going to clock in at 60 points. Not helping us. Guardian, only 1 life. Guardian Archer, 1 life. Hunting Hawk, she's not a bird. Wardens have no ranged weapon options. The Paladins have no ranged weapon options, although this one might be a good one for Billy. Be similar to Tommy. That's Bree. That's Bree coming in. So she's going to walk in and probably make a disruption here in a minute. Emmett, chill. Chill. No. So, okay, here we go. We've got a Warden Shooter right here. We could actually work with this Warden Shooter. So we might work with that. Oh, Bree did not come in and say, what are you doing, and ruin the recording like we thought she was going to do. It says she's fighting with a dog right now. All right, door's closed. Emmett, go say hi. So we could go to this Warden Shooter. She'd go down to 2 attacks but have a higher range. She would save us some points. If we could find some points later, we've got some options to make her feel more Kimberlish.
Sexy!
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Okay. Elephant in the room.
I'm not an elephant.
Kat was a way better childhood crush than Kimberly was.
Whoa.
Kimberly was not a good childhood crush. I'm sorry to ruin all your childhoods. Y'all were wrong.
Wow.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. It's out there. It's in the open. Deal with it. Let's start the healing process. You are quite damp.
Yes.
Bray was doing a show in the rain.
I like the rain.
So we could go ahead and swap this Warden Marksman to a Warden Shooter. More range, less attacks. We've got that option. It's not going to take a whole lot of points off. It's going to save us a whopping 5 points. So we're not quite where we want to be. But we could also turn around and you see we've got more options here that can make her feel a little more unique. You can also use this for other Rangers down the road as well. So clicking into the Eternal is the same points as the Praetorian. The Praetorian is the same points as the Praetorian, obviously. These Warden Hunters, we've talked about that with their pistols. This could potentially be in line, but you're talking about another 60 points. So realistically, with what we're looking at right now, I'm not seeing us pulling into 300 points on the nose. However, we've got 320. You could make a few of the changes we already looked at to bring things back up to 350, which is a nice round number. You could take some other models. Like if you have some of the expansions, you'll have an Alpha 5 model. You may have the Bulk and Skull models. You've got some other things. So Bulk and Skull, I think, honestly, would make very good just Guardians. They'd be, dirt cheap. They'd just be a couple models to get in there to fight for you. In fact, actually, Bulk and Skull right here, if we called both of them Guardians and we just slapped 2 in the list, we're exactly at 350 again. And we've got an 8 model list. And we don't break the validation rule other than being over in our initial points. But our initial points don't actually matter. Because, again, we picked 300 just because it was a convenient number to pick. But the reality is, there's a lot to experiment with here. I encourage you guys to go to armyforge.onepagerules.com. That's army-forge.onepagerules.com. And it will bring up this list builder. Check out some other lists, click some buttons, look at some options. Put your cursor over some of these rules to highlight what they do. Read the one-page rules, basic rules. Check in on the channel. We've got a couple battle reports up. We're going to put up some more ones with these newer rules as we go. And give it a try. You've got absolutely nothing to lose, and you've got a big old stack of here's the good figures just waiting there, wanting to be played with. So that's all we're going to have for tonight. Like and subscribe for more content. Hit the bell button for notification, and we will see you guys next time.